The year is 2011. The St. Louis Rams just lost their final game of the season versus their division rival, the 49ers. This was their 7th straight loss, closing the year with a 2-14 record. One of those wins was a Week 10 game versus the Cleveland Browns, a game they only won by a single point. The organization had had enough, and decided in the offseason the best course of action would be to blow the team up. Head coach Steve Spagnuolo was canned, as well as the offensive coordinator. Oh hey look, it's Josh McDaniels. Good to see he was ruining teams way back then. Anyway, the team also fired Bill Davini, who had been their GM for the past 4 years. So the search for a new GM was on. In enters Les Snead. He was entering a team that held the 2nd overall pick in the 2012 draft. This draft included the likes of Andrew Luck, RG3, Luke Kuechly, Stephon Gilmore, Fletcher Cox, Melvin Ingram, Chandler Jones, and Harrison Smith, all in the first round. There was just one problem. The unanimous top 2 picks were the 2 quarterbacks. St. Louis didn't feel like they needed one. They had just drafted Sam Bradford 2 years earlier, 1st overall. Thinking a trade would be more beneficial, Snead pulled the trigger. He traded the 2nd overall pick to Washington in exchange for the 6th and 39th overall picks, as well as first-round picks in 2013 and 2014. Funnily enough, the Rams would never actually use that 6th overall pick. Instead, they traded it on draft day to the Cowboys, who used the pick on defensive back Morris Claiborne. The Rams slid down to the 14th overall pick, and used it on defensive tackle Michael Brockers. This is where part of the criticism of Snead begins. Brockers is still in the NFL to this day, but he's nowhere near first-round pick production. The man's highest sack total in a single season is just 5.5, coming all the way back in 2013. He would leave LA for Detroit in 2021, and played in every game but one that year. He only racked up 1 sack. 2019 was his best season for tackles with 63, good for 4th best on the team. He is an average run stopper in the league, but when you consider Fletcher Cox, who was taken just 2 picks before him, or Bruce Irving, who was taken 1 pick after him, I wouldn't call this pick a huge success. In the 2nd round of the 2012 draft, the team selected wideout Brian Quick. All it takes is one look at his Pro Football Reference page to see that he wasn't exactly an all-star. With that 39th overall pick they got from Washington, they drafted their first hit, Janoris Jenkins. Jenkins was already making an impact on the field as a rookie. In 2012, he led the league in defensive touchdowns, and was named Defensive Rookie Player of the Year. Here's the problem. He only played in St. Louis for 4 years. In 2016, he left the Rams to join the Giants, where he would be named a 2nd-team All-Pro. While scripting this video, Jenkins is still in the league, though he has fallen off in recent years. The only other pick in this draft I would call a success is 3rd-round pick Tremaine Johnson. While not spectacular, Johnson acquired 392 combined tackles in his 8-year career, to go along with 23 interceptions. Snead did also draft Greg Zuerlein in the 6th round, but he is a kicker, so... The 2013 draft wasn't any kinder to the Rams. The only 2 vaguely successful picks were Alec Ogletree and TJ McDonald. Ogletree being the better of the 2, and was named a 2nd-team All-Pro in 2016, racking up a combined 766 tackles throughout his career. The Rams, by the way, also drafted a guard in the 4th round who has a weighted career average value of 0. In 2014, Snead finally found his footing. Their first pick of the draft was 2nd overall, where they would select tackle Greg Robinson. This, however, would not be the highlight of this draft. Robinson lasted just 3 years with the Rams. After leaving in 2016, he would only last 3 more seasons in the NFL in general. 1 in Detroit and 2 in Cleveland. It would be their next pick that would enjoy the most NFL success.
Sean. With the 13th pick in the 2014 NFL Draft, the St. Louis Rams select Aaron Donald, defensive tackle, Pittsburgh.
So the stout defensive line in St. Louis gets even more so.
I don't think I really have to summarize this pick. The man is a 9-time Pro Bowler and 7-time All-Pro. He's won Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. This was clearly a fantastic pick. There's just one catch. Almost everyone knew he was going to be good. Obviously not quite as good as he became, but even draft analysts at the time said that Donald had potential to be a fantastic defensive tackle. However, I have to give props to Snead for drafting someone with the 56th highest weighted career value of all time. The Rams' second-round pick in 2014 was LaMarcus Joyner. In his 5 years with the team, he accounted for 236 solo tackles and 4 interceptions. While not being the best secondary player in the league, he is still in the league, and I believe that has to count for something. That, however, was the last good pick of their draft. Trey Mason, Maurice Alexander, and E.J. Gaines are just some of the rest of the names of this class. A year later, Snead would hit on 2 more players. With the 10th overall pick, the Rams selected Georgia alum Todd Gurley, despite Gurley coming off of an ACL tear. The gamble, at least at first, paid off. Gurley had over 1,000 yards in his rookie season, along with 10 touchdowns. Despite having a down sophomore campaign, the team stuck with him. In 2017, he would make sure the Rams didn't regret that decision.
Play fake. Dump ball. Gurley. It's one man left. Stays on his feet. Todd Gurley! Find out who's tougher.
And it is Gurley into the end zone for a touchdown.
We're celebrating. Look, there's a lead block right here.
And on a second down and 10 under heavy pressure. Lets it fly to Gurley. Leapfrogs one defender. Flags all over.
First interception of the season is Todd Gurley. Bouncing it outside. Fights off one man. And he dives for the end zone. And he is in for the touchdown.
That season earned Gurley Offensive Player of the Year honors. And in the 2018 offseason, the Rams did this.
We continue now with our breaking news. The running back market finally reset with a mammoth deal for Rams running back Todd Gurley, who has agreed to a 4-year extension. This from our Adam Schefter. It's worth $60 million, includes $45 million guaranteed that ties him to LA for the next 6 seasons. Finally, as I mentioned, a deal that resets the running back market. Adam Schefter joins us now. And Adam, apparently the two sides have been discussing this for some time, and today it comes to fruition.
This starts the next big criticism of Snead, and the Rams organization as a whole. They gave Gurley a massive 4-year, $60 million contract extension with $45 million guaranteed. This made him the highest paid running back in the NFL. But in 2018, the move looked great. He again racked up 12,000 yards and a league-leading 17 touchdowns. But his world would come crashing down just after the Rams' Super Bowl loss.
Todd Gurley. Finally know what's wrong with Todd Gurley. He has arthritis in his knee.
The Rams had just paid all that guaranteed money to a man that would be out of the NFL in 2 years' time. Running backs need knees, and unfortunately for the Rams, this would effectively end his career. Now, throwing money at the wrong people isn't exactly a new problem for GMs to have, but this isn't the only example of Snead doing this. Back in 2013, he signed Jared Cook to a 5-year, $35 million contract. He would only play in St. Louis for 2 more years. His catch rate fell from 66% to 50%, and would miss half of the 2014 season and 4 additional games in 2015 before moving on to Green Bay. Fast forward to 2018. The Rams felt like they needed a true number 1 receiver. Snead knew who he wanted, and traded a 1st and 6th round pick to the New England Patriots in exchange for wide receiver Brandon Cooks. On his way in the door, the Rams signed him to a massive 5-year, $80 million contract with $48.5 million guaranteed. In 2018, this move looked like a good one. After all, he did rack up 1,204 yards and 5 touchdowns. He was the team's number 1 wideout in their Super Bowl. But much like Gurley, that game would be the last time we saw him at full strength as a Ram. The following year, he posted just 583 yards. And being unhappy with his production, the team moved him to Houston the following offseason. So how much did the Rams pay a man who only played for them for 2 years? $42.5 million. Okay, one last example, but this one is the most insane. In 2012, the Rams paid defensive back Cortland Finneran $50 million over 5 years. Not only did he only play 2 of those 5 years, he only started in 23 games. In the end, they paid him $24 million for 23 games. Circling back to the draft, it's not like he never made any good picks. Aaron Donald, Tyler Higbee, Cooper Kupp, John Johnson, Sebastian Joseph Day, among others, are solid to good picks. But take a look at the last 3 drafts. 2020 saw Van Jefferson and Cam Akers being picked, both of whom have limited NFL success so far. And those are the standouts. 2021 brought in Tutu Atwell and Ernest Jones, both of whom have struggled to get solid playing time. The 2022 draft, there isn't a single name on the list even worth mentioning. So yes, overall, Snead did put together a team that won the Super Bowl, and very few GMs in the NFL history can even say that. But his time may be up. The team he put together was largely through free agency and trades. The team doesn't have any money or picks left. And this offseason, seeing the likes of Jalen Ramsey, Bobby Wagner, and Leonard Floyd leaving the team with no replacements in sight or signed, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams struggle again in 2023. If that's the case, Snead may be finding himself a new team this time next year.